everybody, and welcome to LGBTrek. This is episode 9, and it is Pride Month, and we are going to be celebrating on this episode. So the first 30 minutes or so, we're going to talk about the history of Pride, and the history of Pride and Trek, and the history of representation, and also, some of the more depressing things about it. And then for the latter half, we're going to play LGBTrek. Never have I ever. So grab a beverage and come along for the ride. Now let's roll that beautiful bean footage.
What's up, Trekkies? It's your boy Wil Wofford here with Trekker's Delight, a Star Trek-inspired podcast. Before we get started, we're going to give away $100, so make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to our channel where we will announce the lucky winner every single week. Now, welcome to Trekker's Delight.
I love that. I mean, I'm never not gonna do the chair dance when that comes on because it just makes me so happy.
Yes, it's fantastic.
Yay!
I know, right? So while we're celebrating, and I'm gonna bring it down now,
Okay.
where this episode actually had its genesis was actually in Ghosts of Illyria, which, if you haven't been watching Strange New Worlds, is where Una, Chin Riley, which, y'all, that is the worst name. Can we talk about that for a second? Because it's terrible.
I had to pause. I had to pause on that moment, and I was like, does that actually say Chin Riley? Or her middle name is Chin?
No, I think it's hyphenated. I think
it's hyphenated
because
it's supposed
to be East Asian inspired. I don't know.
It literally reminded me of the Balchinian from Men in Black. It literally reminded me of that. I could probably get behind Riley, but Chin Riley, girl, is that your
okay? One of my favorite D&D characters I'm playing is named Riley, so we can't.
Riley is fine. No one is complaining about Riley.
Riley's fine.
Literally, all we're thinking about is literally chin, and I'm like, Rebecca Romaine has negative chins, so what are we doing? Compensating in the name? I don't know.
Nitty chin chin. I'm like.
Yeah, no, I read a lot of the Three Little Pigs to my children, and so I cannot hear chin without thinking it'll huff and I'll puff.
No.
So yeah, not my proudest moment, not gonna lie. But yes, Pride. So Pride is this wonderful thing where we all get to celebrate who we are, and
right.
Pride is an inherently political act. So let's talk a little bit about how Pride started. Eris, do you want to take that?
Oh, God.
That face is amazing, so that's a no.
my surprised face. I know it started as a riot at Stonewall. If you try and put me on the spot to give you a year, I'm going to get it wrong, but I want to say late.
No. We're not going to get too far into the specifics because most of us are too far into our cups to do that.
I mean, okay, so
and by most of us, I mean me.
Broad overview.
1969.
1969. Okay, maybe I'm not as bad at this as I thought I was. Broad overview, in pretty much all of the United States, it was generally illegal to be practicing queer. And our lovely friends, the Popo, the cops, the police, the piggies, whatever you want to call them.
Oink, oink.
The bacon, the bad bacon, because bacon is generally good and doesn't deserve to get dragged like that.
In a blanket.
In many metro areas and such, enjoyed going to gay bars and raiding them and dragging people who were just trying to be themselves off to jail. Even, if they just ended up with misdemeanors or things like that, it was still, especially back then, the public humiliation of it could ruin people's lives, ruin their jobs, ruin their relationships.
That doesn't even approach the lethality issue. There's a really famous nightclub in New Orleans, actually. I think it's in New Orleans, where it was specifically for homosexuals, and they literally burned it to the point where there are excellent photographs. And I guess we need to put a trigger warning for this, which is going to be the strangest trigger warning I think we've ever had. But if you look at actual images, you can literally see the burnt corpses of people trying to get out. They had to break them off the windows.
Good job, America.
Yeah, it was the upstairs lounge,
The
1973.
upstairs lounge fire. And so things like this were actually ongoing. And that's, one of the things that you're talking about, right? Is the underlying rage.
Yeah, and so it was just a culture. The police and the state helped to maintain a culture of fear for oh God, I didn't mean to make that rhyme. I'm sorry. A culture of fear for everyone who is queer. And the cops came to raid the Stonewall pub in New York City, and people were just not having it. And specifically a black trans woman, Marsha P. Johnson. Yeah, Marsha P. Johnson said, fucking done with this. Picked up a brick and chucked it at him. And that riot happened. And that's kind of what kicked off a lot of the Pride as we know it, as a protest movement of saying, hey, stop demonizing us like this. Stop trying to stomp us down.
We do, in fact, have a right to exist, and we have a right to exist as we are.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And then flash forward 50 years, and we have Burger King sandwiches with 2 top buns and 2 bottom buns.
I'm sorry.
Although it's worth pointing out, they didn't even have the balls to sell that in the United States. That's being marketed in Austria.
Okay.
That's right,
I
folks.
think that's an interesting
country of Adolf Hitler is more comfortable with queerness than the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Wait, Adolf Hitler?
Yeah, he's Austrian. Or was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. I learned something new.
It's such an interesting, I think so many of us don't know our history.
Yes. Yeah. I wanted to touch on that after you make your point. Yeah.
And I think that's such an important thing to think about during Pride Month, and because we need to remember the people from the martyrs from the upstairs lounge, who were literally getting together the same way most of us would do on a Friday night, right? They weren't bothering anybody. They were literally getting together and existing, having fun, and someone threw fire. Now, admittedly, this was in the 70s, and so everything was flammable.
Literally everything.
Yeah. So it all kind of went up. But what's interesting to me is that, because I do think it's in the 70s, Nora. Do you remember the year for the upstairs lounge fire?
73.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is still after Pride, right? So the Stonewall riots are really what kicks off the movement, but it takes forever, right? For recognition to happen. For example, Lawrence v. Texas was what?
In early 90s?
Yeah, I think it was 93.
Yeah, that sounds right.
So Stonewall riots in 1969, and it's not until 1993 that the Supreme Court of the United States, and I will admit, we are American, and so like for our international viewers, I'm sorry, like this is probably going to focus mostly on the American experience because we just don't have anything else to talk about.
Right.
Right.
We're sorry.
But it's not until 1993 that anti-sodomy laws are struck down. But even now, in 2022, it's entirely legal in a number of states to discriminate against people for adoption, employment, housing,
medical care. They're trying.
Medical care.
We specifically have, from what I've been told, it's one of those forgotten laws, but it's still a law that if you feel like, if you are a heterosexual man of any race, let's say, doesn't matter, and you reside in Arkansas and you feel like you are being, I won't even say sexually harassed or abused or anything, just approached by what you know is a homosexual man, you have every right to kill him and call it self-defense. It's one of those forgotten laws. And when I say forgotten laws because I remember when I was in high school, Mississippi was actually the last state to outlaw slavery, and that was like 2009.
I was going to bring that up. I'm pretty sure that someone down in the Bible Belt didn't actually get around to striking slavery from the books until the late 2000s, and I'm pretty sure that someone in their elected government actually voted against it.
Right. So
as we're doing a brief timeline, and obviously we're going to do this for about another 15 minutes before we get into the fun stuff, because I think it's also really, really important to remember that Pride is also about a celebration. It's also about reveling in our right to exist.
Yes.
So yeah. I do want to reserve enough time to celebrate that. But
maybe a little too far into capitalism now. But hey, I did buy those Target leg warmers. I'm sorry, I contributed to it.
I mean,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Clearly, I will say this is actually these are actually from a queer artist in Nashville. But like, I may or may not have found the Pride socks. Like, I'm not gonna lie. But the fact that we have. But we'll get to this in a minute. But like the fact that we have the option now, like that they are catering to this community is huge, because the people who were involved in Stonewall would not have had. I mean, that wouldn't have even been the idea. The people who suffered and died in the upstairs lounge. I mean, people weren't claiming their bodies, guys. They weren't claiming their bodies because that would require acknowledging that your loved one was gay. And that, we see that continuing through the AIDS epidemic, right? Like one of the things we've talked, when we were talking about like what we were going to do for this particular episode, we talked about the quilt. And if you don't know anything about the quilt, you really, really, really need to look for it. We are going to include links to the quilt in the description box, and I highly recommend that you take a look at it. It's literally the story of our losses as a community during the AIDS epidemic, again in the United States, although I think it's extended internationally now. But, for so long, the Reagan administration refused to acknowledge that this was an epidemic. It's not until straight people started contracting the virus that it became the source of even discussion. Before that, it was literally just, let's let the gay people die. And it wasn't even, and what was interesting about it, though, is that there's a distinct gender issue here, and I think this happens a lot when we're having conversations about queer realities, is it was mostly gay men that they wanted to die.
That was their logic, because there's a lot of underground LGBT films that I actually enjoy. I enjoy a lot more than the sexualizing ones, but I actually like those with historical context behind it. And The Normal Heart is one of my favorites. I love that so much. I don't know if anyone's seen that or not. It's quite literally an all-star cast. and it never made it to theaters. It only went to HBO with the intention of going to theaters, but it never made it there because it was a queer film.
And that was a relatively recent adaptation of the play.
Right. And that came out in 2014, if I wasn't mistaken. And to me, it's still the best monologue Julia Roberts has ever done. But I actually wanted to go back to another film since we have about 16 minutes left, 14 minutes left. It's called The Imitation Game, and it has Benedict Cumberbatch in it. And I did not. Okay, so I would not have.
You're now going back further, even Stonewall.
Right. So I would not have even known, because when you grow up in the South, and really anywhere that doesn't tolerate being queer, they hide your own history from you and tell you that you're unnatural. You're going, blase. So I watched this film, and I'm an adult by the time I'm in college, by the time I'm watching this. And I'm like, wait, he killed himself in the end? And he was locked up because he was gay? Because he got caught in another
being locked up. What they actually did to Alan Turing is they required him to chemically castrate himself.
Right, and that I actually forgotten about that part, but he pretty much invented the first computer.
Yeah, he was a goddamn national hero for the UK, Great Britain in particular, and for the Allies of World War II.
Yes.
Overall,
he was instrumental in the process of breaking Enigma.
Yeah, he was is instrumental in breaking Nazi encryption to help really make it possible for Allied shipping to get across the Atlantic and invade the Nazi submarine forces. Like, this guy is a big damn hero.
Yes.
For Great Britain.
Yes.
And they were still so upset that he was gay that they criminally charged him, locked him up, were going to force him to chemically castrate himself, and there is plenty of speculation that he did actually commit suicide, that the British intelligence services took him out themselves and staged it because there was a general fear that queer people would be targets for foreign intelligence to try and compromise.
Let's go back a little further. Let's talk about Oscar Wilde. Going back to the Victorian era. Oscar Wilde was literally tried for sodomy and was imprisoned. And during that time, bear in mind, Oscar Wilde was the Kardashian of his era.
I've never heard somebody say that, but that's perfect.
Right?
Okay, now you just opened the can of worms of, can we throw the Kardashians all in prison and never have to hear about them again? And I may, in fact...
I'm just going to keep drinking for that, Eris. Hold on. But Oscar Wilde literally ends up... being thrown into jail for, I want to say 2 years. I can't remember exactly, but he gets thrown in jail. He suffers some sort of ear infection, rupture or whatever, and ultimately has to leave England and moves to Paris and lives in penury, and ultimately dies as a result of, complications, following on. Because it was, I think it's really important to remember it was illegal to be us. I love the term that Eris used, which is a practicing member of the queer community. I'm not super sure. I've always been really entertained by that as a term, because I'm always kind of like, what is practicing? Because, am I never going to get it right? And clearly I need to know. But I think it's really important to remember that it's fundamentally illegal. And I think it's particularly important to think about that as we move into midterms in the United States. Again, our existence as a people is a political act.
Mm-hmm.
Just being here. Being here. Like, I've had, I don't know how many conversations I've had with those in my Facebook group, and not to argue with them, but more so to educate them. I don't want my children to be around no drag queen. I said, okay, cool. Then don't bring your sons to Hooters anymore. And they're, what are they, 5 years old? And you want them to slap their butts? Is that, I mean, aren't you like in a way trying to dictate what their sexuality is right there?
That's indoctrination right there.
Right. So I don't do well.
Or how many times have I heard my 4-year-olds talked about as if, are they going to be ladies' men? And I'm like,
Yes.
they're 4.
Yeah, seriously.
Yes. I had to shut that down with my own kid.
Nobody,
I'm like, that's weird and also uncomfortable. So I'm going to need you to stop that. I mean,
Yeah.
and we're really also seeing a resurgence of the same sorts of laws. There's in Florida, don't say gay, right? I mean,
Right.
I mean, what? Don't say gay? Like,
I mean, that literally reminds me of Don't Ask, Don't Tell.
Mhm.
yes.
Like,
And we thought we had moved past it from the Clinton era, but we have not.
We have
Obviously.
not. No, we
Obviously.
have not.
Texas,
I feel like-
right?
I
Let's
feel
talk
like
about
it's really
Texas.
easy.
Texas is going to get people killed.
I feel like it's really easy to start looking at this resurgence and thinking it's some kind of last gasp of a dying dinosaurs of homophobia, but it's not really.
It's not.
I think people
You
just got
give them-
too comfortable in the last 4 or 5 years.
Well, it's okay. It's like what I've been saying a lot over the course of Pride when people complain about the commodification of queerness, and by, companies and brands gaining their logo with rainbows left and right, is yes, okay, they are totally queer-exploiting. Queer-exploiting is one of the words I've heard. Rainbow exploitation, rainbow
Okay.
washing. I hear it
Yeah.
all over the place.
I can get behind that.
And I think it is absolutely fair to keep in mind that is what's going on, and to call out companies that do that while continuing to donate to candidates who have anti-queer agendas.
Mhm.
Right.
At the same
Yes.
time, let's fucking celebrate the fact that being queer and being seen as inclusive and diverse is such a huge marketing win for these companies. Because
Yes.
rest assured, if this wasn't something they were going to make money on, they wouldn't be doing it.
At
I mean,
all.
let's talk about the fact that there is now
I
a
think
department.
if I can keep going on where I was running with this just briefly here. I think that fact has made us really comfortable with our existence, because it feels like, especially in the aughts, in the early 2010s, that at least, homosexuality jumped to be to a level of widespread acceptance in America.
Right.
And I don't feel like it necessarily would take an awful lot to put that back in Pandora's box.
It probably wouldn't.
Just give the Republican extremists just another set of terms with some of the state and federal governments, and a few of them are clearly willing to go full Gilead. Like, that's what they're aiming for.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Which I think is why it's so important. Like, I think this Pride is so important, and and that's one of the reasons I wanted to spend this time talking about the history and talking about the concerns that are facing our community as a whole. And I'm lucky, right? Like, I'm lucky. I'm currently married to an opposite sex partner. Like, I have the option of passing a lot of, and a Burgerfeld affords protection to a number of, to all kinds of marriages. Unfortunately, there's a lot of that's going to be really state-based, and a lot of, certain types of, concepts and benefits that vary from state to state. And I think it's really, really important to remember that we've got to be out there. We've got to go and remember to vote for the good of our brethren, really.
This is very true. This is very true. I concur with.
I know we're not
Marie
supposed to be
said.
called political on YouTube, but
We're not. Yeah, we're not. But it's like kind of like what Marie said, and I'm gonna try my best to make this point here in a little of time. Is that Marie said that she's lucky because she can be passing and she married a heterosexual man. At least we know, from what we know, he's heterosexual. But I think for me, I'm lucky under a different context because, and it's gonna have like a negative connotation to it, but I kind of use it to my advantage because whatever. So I'm a 6'3" African American man that can literally make my voice deep at any point I want to, and assert my masculinity.
oh, dude, I'm gonna need you to straighten it up right now.
What's up?
What is happening?
I know, right? Like, where did William go?
William.
I don't mean to make light of it, but I think it's really important. It's
And awful that you have to do that.
Yeah.
Right. Now, in my hometown, I had to learn to stand up and say, now in Little Rock, it's more city, definitely more blue in this county than the rest of the state. I'll say. I will say all university or community college, and this is really across the country if you think about it. Counties in Arkansas are blue except for one. So it kind of shows you that there's a pattern. So where I'm at, it's definitely a lot of blue. Now, let's not forget that just because it's blue doesn't mean that everyone is 100% friendly. Then that's not always the case.
Mhm.
So they've had to learn how to deal with that. Oh my God, he's gay, but he's also this big scary black man. I better not piss him off, or he might, and I don't like the thought of that, but I've had to use that to my advantage to get respect. Now, not saying just to be clear, not saying everyone else is weak or inferior in any way. It's just that the negative connotation of a masculine, tall, bearded black man who can make his voice very, very deep, instills fear in a lot of people because of the times we're moving into with race mixing and different movements happening all at the same time. So stuff like that. Anyway.
No, and again, I think Eris has spoken to this, and I don't want to put words in your mouth, obviously, but you've spoken to this upon occasion that you're a big woman.
Yeah,
I am 6'3", and even before I started trying to grow tits, I had a 45-inch chest going around. So yes, I am large, and especially with 37 years before I came out of cis het white male privilege, I carry myself with confidence just about everywhere I go. And I'm keenly aware that many queer people don't have that advantage.
Right.
Also, I'm disabled, so I have a cane, which I can.
I was about to say, you have a beaten stick.
You're disabled?
Yeah, I have a peripheral neuropathy really bad in my legs.
Okay.
I basically have no sensation in my feet and lower legs, so I have a cane to make sure that I don't fall flat on my face.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And also used to teach lessons.
Nice.
I have never had to beat anybody with it.
Just like Dr. House.
Pardon? Yes, exactly.
Yes.
In fact, right around the time we sat down and actually binge watched House was the time I finally decided that maybe I should in fact get a cane. So maybe that lined up. I don't know.
Let's be real. It's for the bitchin' cane.
My cane is so much cooler than House's. He had all these weird little collapsible ones. Mine's this big ass chunk of Eastern European hand carved wood with a fucking skull on it.
Nice. If you're gonna have a cane, you go for it.
You go for it. You fucking go for it. I love it.
But even then, we are still looking at huge spikes in violence against trans people.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that there's a chain of not a chain of command, but there's a not even a food chain, but there's a chain. And at the very bottom, the bottom of the bottom of the bottom, are trans women of color that often get disrespected, killed, murdered, etc., etc., etc. the most.
Yeah.
And then it goes up the list, and then of course at the top, same script, different cast. You get the white cis male gay dude, like who comes up at the top, least likely to get killed, least likely to get disrespected. Doesn't say it doesn't happen, but it's just the least likely, and the rest of us were in the middle. So
Yeah, no, I mean it's a really interesting kind of phenomenon, right? Like, I mean, but then again, we also need to remember Matthew Shepard, like, while we're talking.
Oh, now I will say,
I think I was in high school for that.
That was the one thing they did teach us in school, which is technically LGBT history.
Yes,
it is. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
God damn.
I wouldn't even say it's technically. I think it is. It's like what it is. But I mean, Matthew Shepard was literally the poster child for privilege, right?
Yeah, and he still got beat. No, the other one was dragged to death, but this one was beaten and left for dead, and he died on the way.
I think didn't they just like drape him off of like a fence?
Yeah, they hung him on a fence, and they just beat him and beat him and beat him and beat him, and then left him for dead. Yeah.
It's horrific, and I think they literally ran the defense of queer panic.
And this dude had blonde hair, blue eyes, and he was like, I won't say the epitome of privilege, but he had it. Yet was still beaten. Where was this? Like Wyoming? Where was this? Like,
I think it was it Wyoming? Laramie,
Wyoming.
Okay, right. And
I think, and I really think it's super, super important to remember that when we're looking at a lot of bullying, we're looking at a lot of kids who are dying from suicide, which is again a trigger warning, in high schools because they're being bullied for this. And again, guys, like, we've got more work to do. Is really, if I'm going to encapsulate these 32 minutes or so, we've got more work to do, and we need to remember that. Like, while we go out and we celebrate with our rainbows and our feathers and our glitter, and I'm not gonna lie, clearly I love me some rainbow and glitter. We need to remember that we've got more work to do, and the best way to do that, and the best way to make that move forward and to forward our own interests as a community is to make sure that we can hit the goals.
Okay. So if we may segue, how does this, and we'll give every person a minute, but starting with Marie, how does this segue into the connection that we have with Star Trek?
Because I think Star Trek has a rocky history with LGBTQ representation, which is literally the foundation of this particular video series on this channel. But I think it's super important to remember that the Star Trek future shows us that we can eventually become a situation, we can get to a point in society where you don't have to come out. Where it's just, this is accepted. You do what you do. We've seen it in Strange New Worlds with Nurse Chapel. Yes, I've got a shot with Nurse Chapel. But also to that iconic relationship of with in Discovery that we've got with Wilson Cruz's character and Anthony Rapp's character, right? Like, I mean, they're just married. It's not like, it's not gay marriage, which I think is a really important point to make.
They don't even use those words in the future.
No.
You don't need adjectives. Let's just be people who love and are married.
Yeah,
right. No adjectives.
And I really see this, and I see Pride as being a way to remind ourselves, not just to celebrate the victories that we've had, and we've had a lot of victories, which we're going to get to in a minute, but to celebrate how far we've come, but also to remind us of how much work is left. Like, I talk a lot about wanting to hit the Star Trek future. Not anything out of Bradbury,
I see the meme going around occasionally that growing up is hoping for the Star Trek future, and becoming an adult American is realizing how fast we're headed towards Warhammer 40K.
Yes.
Oh no, I hate that.
Yes, and it's a terrible thought. But I really do believe fundamentally that if we get our shit together and we go and we remember to vote our interests, I think we can get there. I think we can hit the Star Trek future. And I know that's probably a little naive, but fundamentally Star Trek's message is that there's hope. And I really think that right now it's so important to reflect on that hope. But that hope doesn't exist in a vacuum. That hope requires of us to be proactive. And I think that's one of the most important messages that we can take away from Star Trek as a franchise. And it's one of the things that I'm really trying very, very hard to instill in my children. Which means I get to watch a lot of Star Trek.
I'm gonna let you know right now. I don't know what promo or what trailer, but that was the best quote I have ever heard you say. Like ever. Like that was beautiful. That was well said. Like about what Star Trek means. And Star Trek has had plenty of hiccups, but haven't we all? You know, hasn't our history? You know, there were a plethora, and not just plenty, but a plethora of episodes where they completely missed the mark, where they were almost on target, and then they said, "Poof, never mind, gotcha. We were just doing that."
Code of honor. I'm sorry.
Damn. But I think I've had someone ask me just the other day, why do I celebrate Pride Month? And I said, well, it's the same reason why I celebrate Juneteenth. It's the same reason why I celebrate Black History Month. It's the same reason, to an extent, why I celebrate 4th of July. It's the same reason why I celebrate birthdays, you know, Christmas, you know, whatever. You know, every festive day is a man-made concept backed by some sort of movement. Every single one. Everyone, whether we agree with it or disagree with it. Not agree with disagree with what I said, but agree or disagree with whatever movement gave birth to that specific holiday. So he said, I agree that the rest of the holidays and the months need to stay, but why can't people just be gay and straight? And I said, that's what we're fighting for. We're trying to just be, because right now, and I kind of learned this in theater, but there's a difference between doing and being. Anyone can do and do. And when you're trying to be an actor, you're not going to get the role by just doing. You have to be. So we're, as a country, as a people, we're trying to be, not just in the eyes of heterosexuals, but in our own community, where we have to come together in unison. Because I got to admit, our community has a hard time. We demand acceptance from others, but as a community, we have a hard ass time accepting each other. Like the internal.
Oh no! Let's save that for Never Have I Ever.
I know, right? but the point is, we're trying to fight for that place, for that future, like Marie said, where we are in the being, where there is no closet to come out of, where you can just literally be yourself. You don't have to do titles. You don't have to. Not saying you can't call your husband, or your wife, or you're they, or she, anyone. You know, acknowledge with respect, but there is no. That's the best metaphor I can come up with. There's no closet to come out of. You're just, yeah, I like him over there. And it doesn't have to start with, yeah, I like guys. Like, yeah. Okay. But anyway, that was it.
All right, Nora.
Well, I don't have a whole lot of Star Trek experience as to tie it back to. Okay. I do love what both of you guys have said, and just to interject, if you are in Kentucky, vote Charles Booker. Charles Booker. Let's get rid of old Rand, okay? Okay. That being said, I'm also the mom that the right wing warned you about. because I am indoctrinating my child. We are going to learn here. There's not going to be one shred of whisper that he cannot be whoever he wants to be, whenever, or whatever, however.
And if you are interested in the books that Nora is using with her child, we are also going to put information about those in the description box below.
Yes.
So I got a mauve. Got a bunch. Also, my house looks like it has thrown up a pride party. But that's it.
So, Nora, if I may ask you, which of the episodes you have seen and those that we have discussed on LGBTrek with respect to FTP as well, which episode stood out to you that could be worthy of conversation for Pride Month?
The Pell episode. Just I can't remember her name. Drax. Nope, that's a Guardian of the Galaxy. What is her?
Dax?
You mean Dax? Yeah.
Yes, Dax. I was close. One letter off. It's Marie made me drink vodka. And she's just casually having that conversation at the table with Pell, and just like, well, yeah, I just knew. I thought you were gay. And she would rather come out as a woman than be part of that. So that really. It meant something to me to see that. I'm like, wow. And that was in the 90s?
That was 90s. And how Dax handled that so nonchalantly. Like,
yeah, it was just like blah blah blah.
Like you love Cork, don't you? And she's like all into it, like not in a gossipy type sense, because right now we're kind of in a, oh my god, we're in a gossipy stage in our history. I'm sorry to say, but kind of are. But Dax, she's in, or better put, they're in a stage where it's like, oh, you like him, and it's just cool.
It was just nothing. And she was just like, no, I'm a woman. And she's like, what?
Now
it's harder for her to swallow.
Oh,
that's funny.
Okay.
Eris.
Oh, okay.
I like that you're shocked, right? Like, because you you're the most like violent opinions of all of us on this show. I mean, come on.
It's fair. Yeah, I think that. Sorry, my cats are howling up a storm right now. I think that my big connection I would see for me with Pride and Star Trek. I had a very conservative evangelical upbringing.
Mm-hmm.
I had all the exposure to being all the ideas that this was wrong. I remember the day that my dad told me that hitting someone back was never okay unless you think it's a guy hitting on you, because there are some guys out there that are like that. If that happens, you sock them good. So definitely got all that toxicity here, and look at me now. And I
mean, like, amazing blue hair.
Yeah.
Thank you. Autumn White, Copper Comb Salon, Madison, Wisconsin. She is incredible. Anyway.
we can put her information in the description too. Like, while we're adding things to the description, I hope you're taking notes.
It's the pause before the incredible for me.
I absolutely do credit the fact that I grew up watching Star Trek and kind of getting all these, even the episodes where we can look back and say, wow, yeah, they did that really bad, or they ham-fisted that, with bringing me up with an open mind and critical thinking that was ultimately what led to me rejecting, all the Bible stuff and rigid, structured, conservative thinking that was otherwise kind of enforced on me as a child.
I love that. I love that Star Trek gave you that. That's amazing.
Yeah. I think so. At least it was part of it.
I think
You're not alone. You're not alone.
You're not alone at all.
Profoundly large portion of who I am as a person in my moral core has been shaped by Star Trek. Everyone from Spock to Captain Picard to Commander Sisko / Captain Sisko, depending on where you are in Deep Space Nine, to Captain Janeway, all the way to now to Anson Mount's Captain Pike. Like, it is still a conversation about who we are and who we want to be. And I really fundamentally believe that if we look at it and if we pay attention, that there's hope that we can eventually get there. We just have to do the work.
Yeah.
You know, I just realized something. I kept watching the last scene, well, one of the last scenes in the season finale of season 2 Picard, where the new Borg, now that we know that there are 2 different Borg, where the new Borg teamed up with the Federation to stop this energy wave from wreaking havoc on whatever planets that we didn't know what they were. It looked like Andoria. I don't know because I saw antlers. But anyway, Antenna's one of them. And I considered it a powerful moment to me, the way Captain Picard gave command of the ship to Seven. And this is the Seven that rekindled her relationship with Raffi. And now they're sitting down. I'm looking at Raffi just smiling, like happy in the moment, happy. Probably the actor herself just being happy, like, because it's like, to me, I've always considered Troy and Riker to be my favorite of all time Star Trek couple. To me, they have the longest relationship story arc as a couple, where they were together, then separate, then together again, then separate, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Went through hell and high water and back, lost a son. Like, and they have this whole 35-year arc, you know? And I thought that was interesting. Well, now I feel like that baton is being passed to Seven and Raffi.
Oh, yes. I love that too.
And I love that. And I'm looking forward to seeing them in their own show. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is so cool. Look at that. She's a fucking chick. Come on, Jerry Ryan. I see you, bad bitch. I see you, bad bitch. You better do that thing. You know what? I like you. I don't give a damn what anyone says. Because I know in Discovery, they kind of wanted it. And they, you know, good job. Thank you for giving us two married husbands in Discovery with their own arc. You know, one dies via Spock style, comes back, and then they have to get back together, work it out. They semi-adopt Adira, who gets with Gray, and all.
I love you to pieces, but you're taking time away from Never Have I Ever, and man, I need this.
But 2 seconds. But for me, it's Seven and Raffi. It's Seven and Raffi. It's Seven and Raffi.
Yeah, no,
forever and ever. Are they really getting their own show?
God, I hope so.
I know there's been a lot of talk about giving Seven a spin-off in her role as, you know, the ex-Borg Avenger who goes around, a ranger or whatever she calls herself, going around and protecting ex-Borg from people who want to pirate their technology.
Slash,
I would absolutely love to see.
I feel like you made that far more sanitized than it should be.
Yeah, I mean, given the scene we got from the first season of Picard showing that, yeah, I absolutely did. I'm in my mind right now between this conversation and trying to keep the cat in my lap happy so she doesn't just scream her head off.
That's fair.
That's fair. To all of our heterosexual cis people out there, hey, we love you. If you are our allies, we thank you for you standing by our side, for you walking beside us, for standing up for us, both where we can see it, and but most of all, when we can't see it, when you are defending us, when you and most of all, when you don't have to post about it, when you don't have to ask for any clout about it, when you don't have to say, hey, I stood up for you. No, like, you can if you want to. But it lets us know that you are a true ally because you're not looking for any validation. You're being a real, genuine friend, family member, ally. For those family members that have accepted us from the jump, or for those that had took themselves through rehabilitation to accept us, thank you, absolutely, because thank you so much, absolutely.
All right,
this,
guys.
Yeah.
This has been the Pride episode. We have learned so much about each other. Again, like I cannot stress this enough. If you are a member of the community, if you are an ally, please step up and help us and secure the rights for members of the community going forward.
Right.
We want to live in the Star Trek world. We do not. I want to live in the Federation. I do not want to live in 40K. Just saying.
No.
So
there you go.
Celebrate Pride. Take pride in who you are if you are a member of the community and watching this. But don't forget where you came from. Don't forget the people that you are standing on to get where you are. And remember, this is a political act. This is who we are, and we need to own this space. So my love for everyone who has stayed with us this long. Obviously, my love to all of the members of our panel. We've got William and Eris and Nora. Thank you guys for coming and spending 2 hours on a random night. But I cannot express how important this is and how significant this is. So let us know. Let us know, like, comment, subscribe. Let us know where you are in your process. If you need to reach out and talk to us, we are certainly here. We also can point you in the direction of useful links, resources, that sort of thing. So live long and prosper, whatever that may mean for you. And yeah, let's roll that beautiful bean footage.
Now again, I'm going to say this again because we're near the end of our show. If you are our allies, we are not talking to you. We are not talking to you. This does not... Okay? We're not talking to you. Stop trying to take our and make it your goddamn business. It ain't got nothing to do with you. It ain't got nothing to do with you.
Our experience of grief independently.
Bruh.
Yes.
I love that they're in the comments.
So much is like, I'm just reading the comments.
Yeah. They should brought their child out. Such a good point, Will. God, that's such a good point. And he's really thought about it too. You should be here. William, get over here.
I thought he had a girlfriend on Insta. It's been ages since I've mucked about, but.
Okay, moving on. Let's move on.
We gotta move on.